It's hard to imagine a more anti-feminist, non-revolutionary film than One Battle After Another. That's what Slavoj Žižek wrote on his Substack back in November, and that's the right starting point for thinking about this film. But there is more of interest in looking closely at the film's sexism, how it treats Perfidia as this figure of full feminine enjoyment who turns against family and burns the world around her, and how that sets into motion all of this chaos that's centered around getting to her daughter figure, her abandoned daughter Willa, and turning her into the purified, correct feminine figure, basically. How everyone in the film is trying to correct Perfidia and make Willa into this proper revolutionary feminine figure who can enjoy things without being so askew. So the question is twofold. What does the film do to try to break down this unsettling feminine figure of Perfidia? And when we finally do get to Willa, is there a way in which we can throw off the coordinates that have put us to this point, where we are a purified feminine subject who's a revolutionary, who's resisted the straits of the sexism that's been coming for us on an existential level, trying to undo us, basically? Is there a way we can nevertheless not just fall into the fulfillment of this male fantasy of getting to a purified subject, but say F you, I'm still who I am, basically, and reject those coordinates, not be this reified figure? So are we as viewers stuck in the film's own coordinates and have to treat Willa as this reified thing? Or is there a way in which both we as viewers and Willa the character can reject everything that's been coming after us and pinning us down? The same way in which a final girl rejects the slasher that's been coming for her at an existential level. This resistance of the pure I, like cogito, I think therefore I am, at that very basic human level, resisting the thing that wants to fully undo you. So can we shrug off the ideology of the film itself? I think that's an open question, and the only reason I'm asking it is because I do think there is something heartfelt to the film's conclusion, that there is a liberatory element despite everything that's trying to pin down and refuse both universality and liberation. Because there's nothing revolutionary about the beginning of this film. All of the revolutionary acts, this like 1970s bring down the system stuff, it's all just a platform for this hypersexualization and an excuse to make out. So there is zero universality involved. It's all just a staging ground for an excuse to make out. And so this revolutionary making out spills over not just from the revolutionary couple of Perfidia and whatever DiCaprio's character is called, but it spills over into doing the same with the enemy, with Sean Penn, this lockjaw figure, this unattractive figure. And so we have a reference to the revolutionary couple with Perfidia and DiCaprio's character, but they're not in love. On the level of text, maybe they are in love, but love isn't what we see at all in the film. Because Perfidia gets more interested in her affair with Lockjaw, and when Perfidia does finally betray the group, it's not for cause, it's not for love, it's for pure selfishness. And so this is the mistake that the film is trying to fix 16 years later, where DiCaprio is living with their daughter off the grid, basically, and the past comes back after them, and they have to resist it and find some way to get on the other side. And that commitment to hypersexualization is the continued commitment to cause and the thing that prevents us from taking the revolution seriously. And so we see it with DiCaprio when he can't communicate with his old revolutionary organization until he can finally bond with his old comrade over the type of women he liked. And we see it in a somewhat comic way with these white nationalists that are coming after Willa because of her inner core, because of who she is, on a racial level and on a feminine level as well. Because Lockjaw was let into their white nationalist group, and he is the father of this child who is both black and white. So they have to unalive her, the same way as a slasher does. So we see that they're targeting her inner stuff for being both white and black, and for being a woman as well. The latter is not stated explicitly, but it's very particular how she's reified as this feminine figure as well. Now, the film itself is this very chaotic, one type of violence after another without any element of cause involved, aside from trying to get your own daughter to save your daughter's life. So there's no revolutionary foundation here. There's no way in which you can translate what you're doing into anything that's liberatory, but we are getting to some form of liberation with this daughter figure at the very end, where she's able to live her life normally by the very end of the film. And this normalcy is very simply one in which she's got a healthy relationship with her father, and she's able to go out doing something quote-unquote revolutionary. And that's really more not at the level of revolution, but just of a stance, like just a political stance, like a way of engaging the world by just doing something. There's no meaningful way in which you can translate, this Willa character as someone who will change the world, even though there's some text given from her mother when she gets this letter at the end, saying, I couldn't change the world, but maybe you can. I don't think we should take that seriously at all. But what I do question is, does Willa shrug off all of this sexism that she's faced? Because what we've been dealing with in the film is this femme fatale figure of Perfidia, how she undoes the men around her, Lockjaw and DiCaprio, and we get to some distance from what's undoing about her with this proper father-daughter relationship that gets fixed. You always have to be very careful with these family relations and ways in which narratives, reset the family, because the family, it can be a very ideological thing. We sacrifice everything for family, basically, and that sacrifice can be extremely ideological. You have to remember there's nothing liberatory about the power of the femme fatale over the men around her. That's the male fantasy, this full feminine enjoyment. That's how masculinity is structured. And when we confront it, either the femme fatale loses her consistency of self, or the male doesn't reject her, but falls into the maelstrom of her presence and is undone himself. So when we're engaging femme fatales, we're engaging things at this level of male fantasy only. There's no breaking out of it. Lynch's Lost Highway is the closest example of getting on the other side. And what I think is possible is not just reading Willa as what the film wants her to be, this purified feminine figure who's gotten rid of the femme fatale elements, but viewing this as a shrugging off of all of the ways in which the men around her are connected to her and trying to get at her because of her mother. And this flies in the face of what the film is doing with her, with this nonsense letter from her mother that's trying to set things right, and the way in which she is now someone who can go out and do something that's revolutionary. But if we read that revolutionary stuff in this, very base level, like not properly revolutionary, like there's no changing the world, but just as a blank engagement with the world without the coordinates of people pinning her down, I think that's lightly possible. It's just very difficult because the film, like you have her father, you have her father pinning her down with his love, and in just a very neutral, normal way. Like they have a normal, like a genuinely normal, healthy relationship where he's saying be careful and she's saying no, I won't, be careful, as she goes out. That is the proper father-daughter relationship, caring for your child, giving her the coordinates in which she can then go out into the world and engage it. We don't have to treat Willa as this reified feminine figure. We can reject everything the film is doing, basically. And I think this is strictly possible because of how she becomes a violent subject. She gets captured, she is going to be unalived, and she finds a way to survive and unalive the people who are coming after her. That makes her a final girl. That's the element that is liberatory in the film. And pointedly too, like the climactic moment ends with her father approaching the violent situation, and she's not certain whether she can trust him immediately or not. So there's a tension there. Does she turn this violence on to her father as well? Because her father is likewise a reifying element of her as this feminine figure. This desire to purify Perfidia and make Willa into the proper feminine figure. But we can give that structure up, that reification. We can uphold the world as a father, knowing that we don't truly uphold the world itself, in order to give over the proper engagement that a child can have with the world, be open to its violence. So the fact that Willa becomes a violent subject is the one liberatory element in this film. We can occupy that violent space and turn it against all of the sexism of the film. That's the thing to cling to. I'm Nicholas Crawford. I wrote Where We've Made It Dark, which is about the formation of a violent subject, and its character Imogen engages zombies on the level of revolution, how it undoes everything about who we are and opens us to a completely new world. That's very undoing.